All right, let's talk about homesteading in Texas. If you've ever Googled best states for homesteading, I bet Texas pops up every single time. It's on every list. But is it really the off-grid paradise everyone makes it out to be? Well, the answer? It's a lot more complicated than you might think.
You know the image, right? We all have it. That perfect little farmhouse, lush green fields, maybe some chickens scratching in the dirt. That is the dream that sells Texas. But the thing is, in a state as huge and diverse as this one, that picture, it's just one tiny, tiny piece of a much, much bigger and honestly a much harsher reality.
So before we get to the tough stuff, let's stick with the dream for a minute. Why is Texas so attractive to people looking to homestead? What's the big pull? It really comes down to a few really powerful reasons that are just hard to argue with.
Okay, first up, just look at this number, 48,000. Right now, there are nearly 48,000 off-grid properties up for sale in Texas. That's the most in the entire country, and it's not even close. The sheer amount of available land is just staggering.
And a huge reason for all that availability? The price. If you go to the really remote parts of the state, you can find land for as little as $1,000 an acre. $1,000. Now just think about that compared to, say, California or Oregon, where you could be paying 50 times that for the same amount of land.
And then you've got the sun. Texas gets more than 230 days of sunshine a year. That's way, way above the national average. So what does that mean? It means solar power isn't just some nice little backup system. No, it's a completely viable primary source of energy for your whole homestead. You can literally power your entire life from the sky.
And finally, the big one, the financial kicker. This one's super simple but incredibly powerful. Texas has zero state income tax. None. That means more of the money you earn actually stays with you, which, let's be honest, makes a massive difference when you're trying to get a self-sufficient life off the ground.
All right, so let's recap. We've got tons of cheap land, amazing solar potential, and no state income tax. It sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? Which of course means you have to ask, so what's the catch? And trust me, there are a couple of very big ones.
And that brings us to the reality check. We're going to zero in on the two things that can absolutely turn that Texas dream into a total nightmare: water and rules. These two are the potential deal breakers you just can't ignore. Just look at these two pictures. This really gets to the core of the whole issue. You see, Texas isn't really one state. It's more like two different countries rolled into one. On one side, you've got the lush, green, almost jungle-like world of East Texas, and on the other, the dry, rocky desert of West Texas. They might be in the same state, but believe me, they are two completely different worlds.
And let's put some numbers on that difference because it is dramatic. East Texas can see 50 inches of rain a year. 50. Meanwhile, parts of West Texas, they're lucky if they get 10. That huge gap, that changes everything. It decides if you can even think about collecting rainwater, what you can possibly grow, and basically how you live every single day. It's literally the difference between a beautiful, thriving garden and a constant, desperate fight to find water.
Now, I know what you're thinking. I'll just drill a well, right? Well, in West Texas, that is a massive gamble. We're talking up to $50,000, 50 grand, to drill a well. And after all that money, you might only get a tiny trickle, a few gallons a minute. Or even worse, you could hit absolutely nothing. It happens. A lot of folks out there literally have to haul in water week after week just to survive.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about that famous Texas freedom. The idea that you can just go out there and build whatever you want. No pesky building codes, no complicated permits. And yeah, that's true. Kinda. It's only true in very specific, unincorporated areas. The simple reality is this. Your level of freedom in Texas is directly tied to how far away you are from a big city. That real, hardcore freedom, it exists for sure. But it usually comes with real, hardcore isolation. And speaking of rules, there's a key piece of Texas law you have to understand. It's called the rule of capture. Basically, it means if there's groundwater under your land, you have the right to pump as much of it as you possibly can. It's this first come, first served, biggest straw wins kind of thing. And while that sounds great for you, it can also mean that if your neighbor drills a bigger, deeper well, they can literally suck the water table dry right out from under you, leaving your well completely useless.
Okay, so with these wild extremes, how in the world do you make a smart choice? Well, the key is realizing you're not just choosing Texas. You have to choose your Texas. So let's break this state down into its main regions, because each one comes with a totally different set of pros and cons.
This chart here breaks it down pretty clearly. Let's start with East Texas. This is probably your safest bet if you're a beginner, mainly because water is everywhere. The catch? The soil is super acidic, so you'll have to work it to grow a decent garden. Then there's Central Texas. It's gorgeous, great soil, but man, the land prices anywhere near the big cities are just through the roof. And finally, West Texas. This is where you'll find the cheapest land and the most freedom, but that extreme lack of water means it's really only for the most experienced, hardcore homesteaders out there. For real.
And you cannot talk about Texas without talking about the climate. Let's be real, the summers are brutal. We're talking 110-degree heat, often with this soul-crushing humidity on top of it. Now, the winters are usually pretty mild, but as we all saw back in 2021, a big freeze can knock out the state's entire power grid. It was a perfect and terrifying example of why, if you're not totally self-sufficient with your own power and heat, you are incredibly vulnerable.
So, after looking at the incredible dream and some of these pretty harsh realities, it all comes down to one big question. Is Texas the right state for you? Let's try and land on a final verdict you can actually use.
All right, let's break it down. You should seriously think about Texas if you can actually handle extreme heat. If you're ready to make water your absolute #1 obsession. If you want to take advantage of all that incredible solar potential. If you really do value that regulatory freedom more than convenience. And if you're honestly okay with being pretty isolated.
On the other hand, you should probably steer clear of Texas if you want water to be easy and guaranteed, if you need to be anywhere near a hospital or regular medical care, if you're not mechanically handy, because you will have to fix your own stuff out there, and if the very idea of working outside when it's over 100 degrees sounds like your own personal version of hell.
Look, if you take away only one thing from all of this, let it be this quote. Texas rewards preparation and punishes assumptions. You have to do your homework. You have to pick your county with extreme care. And you absolutely have to have your water situation figured out before you ever sign a deed. If you do all that, you really can build an incredible life there. But if you don't, it will break you. It's that simple.
So, after all that, if you're still thinking about that Texas dream, I'd love to know, which region are you leaning towards? Let us know down in the comments. And hey, if this breakdown helped you out, do us a huge favor and hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed for more deep dives that get straight to the point.